r/AskReddit. What's the most BA thing you've ever done? I was young, probably 11. I had a kid try to tackle me from behind, and I flipped him over my shoulder. It was freaking dope. A while back, I looked outside my house to see the sky was overcast. So I lifted my hands and snapped my fingers, and lightning flashed right in front of my house. I felt hella BA after that moment. And recently, I thought back to that moment and decided to snap my fingers again. And then a power surge, or a short outage, took place in my house. This was late at night, by the way. One day, I will learn to master this power I have over electricity and exploit it for my own lazy benefits. I did pretty much the opposite once. My buddy has a house and a boat on Lake Laura, North Carolina, and one night we were out on the water super late, and we had been drinking pretty much all day. I was making some impromptu and passionate speech about God knows what, and I slapped my hand down on the windshield of the boat right as I made my final point. It just so happened at that exact moment, all of the lights around the entire lake shut off. Instant pitch black except the stars. But it was pretty dang cloudy that night, so not much light at all. I thought I broke something and my buddies and I freaked out for a bit, until my friend who owns the boat called the power company, only to find out they had a mandatory maintenance shut-off for a few hours. Kind of lame, but it was fun docking the boat by iPhone flashlight alone though. Not my most BA moment, but once in 3rd grade, we were playing dodgeball with those iconic red rubber balls, and my 2 friends happened to be on the other team that day. And well, I had a ball. Effing whipped it at one of my friend's heads, cracked him straight in the face. The ball bounced off, only to hit my other friend right in the face. I got a collateral headshot in dodgeball. By far, my favorite elementary school moment. When I was 18, I was an EMT. My first emergency call, after we got the guy to the ER alive, the ER doctor looked at me and said, "Do you know what you did? You saved that man's life." I'm 23 now, and EMS wasn't the career for me, but I still think about that moment a lot. I was pumping gas at a station with my sister, me being 19 at the time, and her being 16, when a man, probably like 25 years old, got into the back seat of my car. I started to yell at him to get out of my car. My sister was shaking scared. He then pulled a gun on me and told me to get in the car and drive. Without even thinking, I started to make him question himself by saying, "Or what? Are you going to shoot me right here in a well-lit gas station? There are people around. Did you really think this was enough?" He started to look around, called me a stupid bee, got out of the car and ran off. I was sitting in a chair. I threw a gummy bear up and hit a really high ceiling and caught it in my mouth without moving uncomfortably to catch it. That's where I peaked IMO. In my high school stats class, we did an experiment where we all threw 10 goldfish crackers to ourselves and to a partner, trying to catch them in our mouths so we could compare data. I went 10 for 10 on both and was an outlier. Needless to say, I was quite popular. Guy pulled a knife on me when I was a bit tipsy and waiting for a bus and demanded my wallet. Without thinking, I hit him in the jaw and knocked him out cold. Stole his knife and walked away. Still have the knife somewhere around here. Achievement unlocked. Switchblade. I was at a small local concert that was being held in a park. It was a bunch of metal and thrash bands. Mostly local acts, but a few touring bands. The gazebo where we were playing was on a small island in a lake, with the only access being a bridge that led to the parking lot. The event organizers had a couple of people stationed on the bridge to take tickets. It was a pretty cool setup to just be available for us to rent out. Everyone was being pretty chill and enjoying the show. There was a mosh pit with a few guys, but there was plenty of room. Then this group of idiots shows up. 70% of this crowd is underage, but these guys show up drunk and with more beer, and immediately start causing trouble. They were asked to leave, and told the cops were being contacted. Tensions are high, yelling and cussing all over. But hey, they are leaving now. Maybe we can go back to enjoying ourselves. One of the organizers walked behind them while she was escorting them out, phone in hand. Just as they reached the bridge, the guy turned around and slapped the crap out of her. I saw red. The stage was about 50 meters from the bridge, and I broke into a sprint heading for this guy, ready to whoop his ass. I'm halfway there, and all 5 of these guys turn and run. I'm a big guy, but still, I didn't expect all 5 to run. I get to the chick that got slapped and I stopped running. She's safe and I feel pretty badass for chasing these guys off. Then I turned to see that all of the no less than 200 people at the show saw the same thing I did and were right behind me, ready to stomp these guys onto the ground. So I didn't chase them off myself, but I basically led a battle charge. My brother and I are close in age, so we grew up always playing on the same hockey team together. I'm a girl who's 1 year older than him and was often the only girl on the team. Anyways, during one particular game, when he was 11 and I was 12, This one kid on the other team kept picking on my brother. He finally illegally tripped my brother. My brother slid headfirst into the boards. The kid got a penalty and went into the box. I decided that when he got out, I was going to make my revenge. As soon as he got out, I skated towards him at full speed, put my stick between his feet, and flipped him onto his head with one swift motion, looked down at him, and told him to leave my brother alone, then happily skated over to the penalty box while my parents cheered me on from the stands. All the kids on my team thought it was pretty badass, so I'm pretty sure that's the most badass thing I've done. It's also one of my favorite memories. So I was chilling at my really rich friend's house in high school with a few buddies, just smoking a joint outside in the winter, and we hear a whimpering/crying. We notice his dog is missing, and soon after, our worst fear becomes reality, as we see it's him we heard out on the frozen lake, who walked a good 200 feet out and fell through. Freaking out and stoned, we run to the neighbor's beach, which was closer to him, get in their canoe, and start chopping through the ice, pushing ourselves forward inch by inch. About 2/3 of the way out, I broke the solid wood oar clean in half, trying to force ourselves out to him. We make it there, and somehow, he's still managing to stay afloat in the freezing water after being stuck at least 15 to 20 minutes. I was in the front of the boat, so I got to him first. Now keep in mind, this is an absolutely soaked, 90-pound, dry dog, and I'm 5'7", 120 pounds. But thanks to adrenaline, I pulled him out like he was a chihuahua. We get him to the nearest animal hospital, which is like 25 miles away, since it was late at night, and he made it. Lived about another 10 years after that. I chased a man down in the mall who had stolen a woman's purse, tackled him, and restrained him until security showed up. Then went to Cinnabon and treated myself. I ate the Cinnabon in one bite. It was the most badass thing I've ever done to date. I grew up in a not-so-safe neighborhood, and when I was 16, I had a job at the local Dairy Queen. One slow night, 5 minutes before closing, I'm working with one other person, a smaller girl, when two guys ride up on their bikes. Nobody else was around, and it was already completely dark. They walked up to the door and talked a bit before entering. One of them pulled a gun from his pocket or pants and put it into his jacket, and a few seconds later goes to open the door. I still don't know why this was my reaction, but suddenly, I, the tall, skinny, pale ginger, took a step towards the door and pointed back outside, made eye contact and said, "You're going to have to leave that outside." The guy with the gun stopped and just said, "Oh," politely set the gun outside on the concrete and came back inside. This was immediately followed by the most, "Okay, just act normal," moment in my life. Doing a hazmat response all suited up, where I had to contain water-reactive and air-reactive chemicals that were in an exploded glove box with nitrogen pouring out. Blood everywhere from the researcher involved, on a timer to beat the emptying nitrogen cylinder. I was on a tall rock at the beach, and I pretended to waterbend a giant wave right as a big wave crashed at the base of my rock, and the water rose like 20 feet in the air in front of me. Felt pretty cool. Once, I stood out on a tall flat rock by the ocean so a friend could take a picture. I put my arms out palms up, like beckoning the sea to rise as a joke, and a huge wave came up and crashed all around. Would have made an awesome photo, so I excitedly hopped down and asked if she got it, but she wasn't even ready with the camera yet. Bah! I used to get in a lot of fights in middle and high school. I'm not really proud of any of them, and I lost almost all of them. But there is this one I'm really proud of. We were at some dumb 4th of July party that we thought was super cool at the time. It was at some rich kid's house on a big hill, so there was a steep drop at the edge of the yard. These kids started pushing my friend, saying he owed them money. To my knowledge, he had no idea who they were. He seemed like he was handling himself, so I turned around, probably to talk to some girl who had zero interest in me. Next thing I know, two of these kids have my friend by each arm, while one of them is punching him in the stomach. I grabbed Punchy in a chokehold and threw him down the hill. The rest of the fight basically consisted of some shouting and some light pushing and chest bumping, while his friends went down to help him up the hill. He was fine, but didn't bother us after that. I'm not a strong guy, and I don't promote violence, but what can I say? It's a fun story and I was defending my buddy. Now this is something kind of new, but I'm going to tell one of my own stories. Not something I posted to Reddit, just something I happened to think of myself while reading all of these. And if you made it this far, excuse my voice, sinus season is upon us and it's kicking my butt. When I was 18 or 19, I was hanging out with a friend at his apartment complex. Wasn't in a good side of town, and it was well known to be rather dangerous. We're walking around anywhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and we notice there's a group of about 6 or 7 people following us from behind. We try to be as low-key as we can about it, but keep an eye on them for about 10 minutes. Lo and behold, they're still following us. And unfortunately, one of them has a bat. I'm not now, nor have I ever been a fighter. Never been one to run away either. We kind of got ourselves into a position where we were a little bit cornered. So, without giving it a second thought, I randomly just pull a 180 and start walking towards these guys. Within seconds, I knew that's not at all what they were expecting, as they all immediately stopped walking towards us and their group just kind of collapsed into itself. And to my friend's credit, he tagged along, though a couple of feet behind me. With complete calm confidence and really no other choice, I asked what's up, trying to appear as chill as possible. While they were still confused and rather inebriated, we talked there for about 3 minutes before they asked if we wanted to join their group. On impulse, I said sure, and now the 9 of us were walking around this apartment complex. After about 30 minutes of this, who seemed like the leader of the bunch, and the toughest looking one, admitted, whether true or not, that they had originally planned to beat us up and mug us. But now we seemed pretty cool, so they were glad they didn't do that. Me too, random drunk guy. Me too. If any of you have any badass stories, please let me know in the comments. It also really helps the algorithm, which is phase 1 to stopping the robot threat.